Recording in progress.
I promise no more to roam. Home is where the heart is. The funny part is my heart's been right there all along. No more tears and no more sighs. No more fears. I'll say no more goodbyes. You've traveled beckons me. I swear I'm gonna refuse. I'm gonna settle down and there'll be no more blues. Every day while I am far away, my thoughts turn homewards, forever homewards. I've traveled around the world in search of happiness, but all the happiness I found was in my hometown. No more blues, I am going back home. No more dues, I'm through with all my wandering. Now I'll settle down and never roam and find a man and build a home. When we settle down, there'll be no more blues, nothing but happiness. When we settle down, there'll be no more blues. Every day while I am far away, my thoughts turn homewards, forever homewards. I've traveled around the world in search of happiness, but all the happiness I found was in my hometown. No more blues, I'm going back home. No more dues, I'm through with all my wandering. Now I'll settle down and never roam and find a man and build a home. When we settle down, there'll be no more blues, nothing but happiness. When we settle down, there'll be no more blues. There were bells on a hill, but I never heard them ringing. No, I never heard them at all, till there was you. There were birds in the sky, but I never saw them winging. No, I never saw them at all, till there was you. And there was music and wonderful roses, they tell me, in sweet fragrant meadows of dawn and dew. There was love all around, but I never heard it sing. No, I never heard it at all, till there was you. there was you. There were birds in the sky, but I never saw them winging. No, I never saw them at all till there was you. And there was music and wonderful roses, they tell me, in sweet fragrant meadows of dawn and dew. There was love all around, but I never heard it singing. No, I never heard it at all till there was you. No, I never heard it at all till there was you.
We are grateful so much for the talent of Isabella. We are grateful for also our partnership with the Jazz Institute here in Chicago. And so again, thank you so much. We want to welcome you all to a great conversation today, centering our time and our energy and our efforts on unpacking the matrix of motherhood. I know just a few days ago, we had a great time celebrating mothers all across the world, but today we want to have an up close and personal conversation with some amazing women who are leading the way and also balancing various things, including motherhood in life. And so today we're going to be led by an amazing moderator. She's written not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 books. Bianca Cotton comes to us as not just an author, but a student, having graduated with her own master's degree. Let me say that again, her own master's degree from the DePaul University. Shout out to the Blue Demons, class of '06. But nevertheless, at DePaul, she curated her own master's degree program centering on sociology and a host of other things that are better, that have made rather society better. Before she went to DePaul and got her master's, she went to Illinois Wesleyan when she got her bachelor's degree. But beyond all of that, she's a great person. She's a great mother. She's a great leader. And she is the coordinator for diversity, equity, and inclusion here at UCAN. So today we're going to diversify the conversation with great perspectives. We want equity for every woman across the world, but we're including you. And so we want you to tell somebody and share this with someone, because this conversation on the matrix of motherhood is going to be one to remember. So I want you all to welcome none other than Bianca Cotton, our moderator for today. How are you, Bianca?
I am well, Pastor Hall. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction and welcome to this marvelous conversation.
I'm getting ready to slide left because I want to get the audience as well. So look forward to the dialogue.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. So excited. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. And if you are a mother, how many children you have. I'm so ready to dig into this conversation. Mary, Sybil, Krista, Sierra, Rihanna, please join me on this virtual stage. Happy belated Mother's Day to all of you. So lovely to be here with you today. Mary, can you start by introducing yourself?
Absolutely, and thank you, Bianca, and thank you to Claude and everyone. I'm so excited to hear from all of you this morning. My name is Mary Chant, and I'm the CEO of the Missouri Coalition for Children. We're an organization that works to fight for good policy and practice to help support children and families in our communities. I'm also the incredibly grateful mother of 2 daughters, ages 13 and 17, and who help me become a better person each and every day. I've been with the coalition for about 10 years, and I also enjoy, as part of my self-care, practicing traditional Okinawan martial arts and teach a small class, and that helps keep me sane some days. Some days it doesn't work, but thank you again.
Thank you for being here, Mary. Krista, can you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you, panelists, for joining us today. I'm Krista Hamilton, CEO and President of UCAN. We are a social service agency, 153 years old, based on the west side of Chicago, but we service the entire city. We are a child welfare organization with many wraparound services. We serve over 20,000 kids in the state of Illinois. I am a mom. I'm a mom of two young people, an 8-year-old daughter and almost 2-year-old son.
Awesome. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
Sierra.
I am excited to be here today. I'm Sierra Boatwright. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate and Community Development for CRG. CRG is Clayco's real estate development and investment arm. And so I have the pleasure of leading a lot of our high impact real estate development projects and ensuring that community is at the core of the work that we do, as well as leading a unique diverse developer initiative to incorporate more diversity and inclusion in the commercial real estate industry. I'm a mom of 2 incredible rock stars that keep me busy and keep me on my toes. I have a freshman in high school who's 15, and I also have a 10-year-old who's in 4th grade.
Lovely. Thank you, Sierra. Rihanna.
Hi, thanks, Bianca. I'm really glad to be with you all this morning. I am the founder and principal of Forward Change, which I just started this past February through Forward Change through an equity and trauma-informed lens. I partner with organizations to be increasingly adaptive through adaptive planning, also work with them using design thinking and human-centered design to spur innovation, and also try to move organizations more into a systems thinking lens. And so I'm working with some great organizations across the country right now. I have 2 little ones, a 3-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter who keep me on my toes, but they're a delight. And yeah, just really great to be with you all today. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And Sybil.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on this panel. So I'm very excited to be here. My name is Sybil Damas. I am currently the Director of Operations for Ballinger Company, and it's an architecture and engineering design firm. So I've been here for 2 months. Prior to that, I spent over 20 years in the nonprofit sector, working in child welfare and policy, and then moving into operations for a large local nonprofit. I'm based in Philadelphia. And now I'm just really focused on organizational development, human resources, and all things kind of operations that kind of, it's nobody's job, but it's got to be, someone's got to do it. So that ends up being me, which I love. And I am a mother of 2 daughters, a 14-year-old and a soon to be 13-year-old. So they definitely keep me on my toes and kind of keep me young and hip on all that new music. So it's fun.
Awesome. And I'm a mother of 3, 17, 5, and 2 boys and a girl. So definitely loads of energy in this household. Speaking of loads of energy, and it sounds as though a lot of you all are pioneering and the first to do what you're doing. How do you take care of yourself as a pioneering mom? What does your self-care routine look like? And Sierra, I see your face, so I think you want to jump in on this first.
I'm happy to jump in. If I can be honest, self-care has not always been something that I've been successful at. As a younger mom with my son, I wanted to say yes to everything, every play date, every invitation to every social event, birthday party, but also have my own life as a mom. And I'm a wife, make time for my husband. And I realized I was juggling these things and balls were dropping. And at the end of the day, I was exhausted. And so self-care for me is learning to say no and prioritizing. knowing that I don't have to be all things to all people, but I have to be everything to those two little ones. And so that has helped me to kind of prioritize. No is one of my new favorite words. And it doesn't mean that I don't try to do a lot and make sure that I have my kids exposed to a lot of things. But to be quite frank, this pandemic has totally shed light that my kids don't have to be overprogrammed. And frankly, it frees up some time to just have organic family time and really get to engage with my kids without having to be on a team's roster, without having to, be the mom to transport kids to and from all the time. And so I think for me, saying no is my new favorite way to care for myself and
That's so
my
good.
kids.
Snaps to you. Seriously. Krista, I see you unmuted yourself. Come on, jump in this.
Yeah, well, see, I'm learning how to say no. I'm not too good at it. But you know what? Really, I enjoy my friends, right? So I had kids a little older in life, so my friends took up a lot of my time. They kind of helped me through the early years. So we have really close relationships. And it's a couple of years I kind of took step back, right? I had kids, pandemic happened, but I realized that I really needed to reconnect. So now, some of my friends, we take a day every month and say, hey, we're going to go to brunch, we're going to do lunch, happy hour, whatever that is, and making sure that we connect that way. And then also my commuting time, sometimes in the car, I used to fill those with meetings or other things, catching up with people. But now, I've stopped trying to fill that time and just use it to listen to music that I want to listen to or meditate or do those things. Because I spend about an hour and a half in the car by myself every day. So thinking about more intentional ways to use that time and not just, cram another meeting in or catch up on some calls.
That's good. Do you find that as a pioneering, high achieving woman, that's still difficult to do, not to cram every minute and moment with productivity?
I'll say yes, absolutely. But then I had to learn the work is never done. And that's just what it is. The target keeps moving. You accomplish these goals and new goals will come up. So I had to learn how to process that and just be comfortable with it because I want to always, catch up on things and stay on top of everything. But the truth of the matter is the work is never done. And it'll be there tomorrow. So unless it's something that must be done by a particular deadline, I try to give myself a little bit of grace and say, hey, it'll get done tomorrow and people will be okay with it if it's not done today.
That's good. Mary?
To build a little bit on what Sierra shared made me think of something to it. And so learning to say no, I needed the bridge of learning how to pause. So I couldn't immediately go to no, but one thing that's helped me get to that is just take the pause. And sometimes it's not no, it's not right now. And learning for me how to separate important from urgency, because my mind kind of puts many important things into that urgent bucket that I need to respond to attend to, and just getting to that place of being able to just pause and consider and that empty space, and getting comfortable with that has helped me get to more no's, as well as really, I think, personally do a better job of prioritizing. And I remember my mother shared with me a long time ago. She said that my daughters will learn how to take care of themselves by how I take care of myself. And that's where they'll learn. So there's some good parenting too in that self-care. And on that, the first question, I also know that I just need something that's absolutely mine that I don't have to share. Doesn't mean I won't share, but something that the interest is about meeting my needs. And it doesn't mean that other people aren't welcome into it to share that interest, but the interest is about me. And if I have one of those things, and that may seem selfish, but it works for me, that I have sort of ownership of that one part that is, again, doesn't mean I won't share it with others, but it means it's not designed to be shared for others. And that is very helpful for me.
I like that. Something that's yours. And that's not selfish. Rihanna or Sybil, would you like to add?
Oh, go ahead, Sybil.
Oh, yeah. I think, for me, I like Mary, like something that's mine that I do, and it's my time. And I spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, but I spend time just working on self-care as far as like exercise, kind of focused on nutrition. And I noticed that, a few years ago, my stress level, was more manageable. Like the more I spent time having some of that dedicated time, it's time to think, time to either veg out, not do anything else that's work related or family related, just really having that time just for me. So I've been focused on that. And I think kind of seeing the balance of being graceful to myself, has been helpful as far as just how I manage, the life as far as work and family. And I think the other piece is trying to be more mindful of really pausing before I react. That's something that has been a challenge for me. So just trying to really working on that. So that's something I'm working on.
Yes, I can relate to that. A friend of mine just gifted me with the sign that says breathe, and I have it on my desk. So that is my constant reminder to breathe daily. Rihanna, did you have something you want to add?
I'll just say that I think over the last few years, as we've all had some time to reflect, as we've been home and whatnot, that I've really had to come to terms with the fact, I think I heard it somewhere, that we're human beings, not human doings, and that self-care is really key, not just for myself, but if I'm not at my best self, I can't give my best to others. And I think self-care in a way has become very commoditized. And so at first I felt like I had to do all these things just for self-care itself. I was trying to get up extra early because I have young ones, so it's rare that I get any time to myself, and that I'd have to get up really early and do my morning pages, do my gratitude, journal and whatnot. And I've realized that just taking 5 seconds to take a deep breath is all I might need. So
That's good. Self-care is what you make it, right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't be another job.
Exactly.
And that adds more stress. So we learn so much from our children on a daily basis. What is one life lesson you've learned from your children? Krista, you want to kick us off?
My daughter is so confident, and I'm like just light years beyond where I was at her age, right? I was super shy. And I think she sees this version of me. So I think she pulls so much from it, but she's a go-getter. She's always like raising her hand first in the class. I've just been learning from her, even if she was struggling with reading, the pandemic started when she was in kindergarten. And then unfortunately, I was her teacher for about 2 years at home while I'm running a business. So you can imagine how well that did not go for us. And she was really struggling as she entered second grade. But that didn't stop her at all. Like she still was like raising her teachers, like she's raising her hand, and she was struggling through the pages, but she would just stay at the top of the list on it. And I was admiring like how bold she was. She was not afraid to make mistakes. And it was really helpful, right? Because I was starting a new job at the same time she was starting second grade. Just so really just admired her confidence and just her real go-getter attitude. I just that has really taught me a lot. And then she's smart beyond, like she's just wise beyond her years to me. So the things that she'll say to me, and really encourage me, as I was starting my new job, like I was going home and freaking out about some things. And she was just like, Mom, you're gonna do great. You did great job at this other company. You're gonna do great. So for her to understand it, and be able to encourage an 8-year-old encouraging me just meant a lot. So I just really pulled from her confidence. It walk with it, right? Because sometimes I'm faking it until I make it in some ways, but she just has it naturally. So that has been a huge lesson to me, just seeing how she has performed when she was unsure. Well, she wasn't, she didn't have the full ability or skills, but she did it anyway.
That's beautiful.
I can go next. I think one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned from my two children is the reminder that every day is a chance to start over. And this is from when they were little, and we would, as a mom, my questions to my little ones: what was the best part of your day and what was the worst part of your day? And I learned to ask this very early on, because you learn a lot about what's happening from the best part and the worst part, right? You learn about friend issues, you learn about challenges in the classroom. So those are my two questions that I've been asking since they were little. And when my kiddos would say what the worst part of their day was, they would always follow up with what could have gone better or what they'll do next time. And so for me, it's just that reminder that it's a chance to start over. It's a chance to kind of hit the reset. It's a chance to do things a little differently, but to reflect on what didn't go so well, but not get stuck in that space. And so to this day, I still ask, what was the best part? What was the worst part? And I love that they follow up on their worst part with what they'll do differently. And so as I think about my not so great days, not so great presentations, not so great business decisions, it reminds me that tomorrow was a chance to kind of perfect what didn't go so well today. And I need that reminder all the time. I also need that reminder as I parent these two kiddos, right? Sometimes I go to bed and I'm like, you weren't your best self today, Mom. You got to do better. You got to take a chill pill. You got to give grace. You got to give a little bit more space. And so it's that reminder that I need every single day. Tomorrow's an opportunity to start over and to reset.
That's good. That sounds like a book, Sierra. Like a little flip through.
I'll leave it to you.
My reminders. I would add, one of my greatest lessons I've learned is that things don't have to be perfect. So, and with children, they are disruptors, right? Natural disruptors. But that has been the greatest thing for me. I think without having children, I would be a workaholic. And they teach me how to pause. Let's go to the playground. I want to go to the play. And that is my cue. Okay, it's time for me to pause and switch gears and turn this part of my brain off. Go ahead, Mary.
I just didn't want to interrupt anyone. I think from my younger daughter, one of the continuing lessons I've learned is grace and forgiveness, and her ability to just extend grace to others, both to her friends. She's 13 now, but even to, we have just, I'm a single mother, and their father struggles with addiction, and so has not been able to be a reliable presence. So that has left, empty spots, right, in their parental space, which, we've worked to support them through. But just her ability, there was one particular, it seemed like a significant fail, and was talking with her about it. And she was 8 at the time, and she said, "Oh, it's that's okay. It's not his fault." And I just said, "Well, we as adults, we are responsible for," and kind of went through that parenting. And she said, "Yeah, but it's our imperfections that make us perfect." And she said that at 8 years old and I thought, I'm not. That's beautiful. I was humbled. Continue, of course, to support understanding all of the issues around the other part, but allowing, allowing that space for other people. And that is something that is such a natural core part of who she is, that it's truly inspiring, humbling, and has helped me be quiet several times when I absolutely needed to be quiet.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to add? Oh.
I'm happy to add. My children are still pretty young, and I think for me, the world's really heavy, as we all know, and I think just remembering and finding our own inner child, like just watching them so curious and just finding delight in the most simple things for me has just been very eye-opening since I've had children. And so, when I tend to stress a lot, or if I'm, there's just a lot going on, just remembering to kind of recenter and just really appreciate just the little things and continue to really look at the world with curiosity. I think that's been so far in their young age, what I've really kind of taken away as being their mom.
Definitely.
And I think for me, it's just really learning to, like I said earlier in my intro, is just really like taking the time to listen, not really forming my opinion like I know the answer. So I think my youngest daughter has been reminding me of that, just because sometimes I feel like I already know what she's going to say, and really just taking the time just to pause and listen. That's something that I've learned and not really have an answer to as well, helping them to come up with their answers, because every time I would give the answer, I'm like, well, this is what you should do, I'd be faced with some resistance of like, no, I can't. But, so I'm really kind of switching the script a little bit and flipping the question, just saying like, well, what do you feel? How do you feel? And really kind of having them to come up with, their solutions to help them also provide their problem solving skills as well. And because like they're teenagers, early teens. And so some of that's like making sure that they have that foundation. So really listening and, helping them think through their issues.
That's good. So we are transitioning to the wonderful world of boundaries. Boundaries has become popular in this pandemic, I've noticed, as well as self-care. How have you advocated or informed the organization you work with, your managers, and team about your boundaries? Rihanna, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. I think it's something I continue to work on, if I'm going to be honest. I think there is a greater appreciation for boundaries in general when you state your boundaries. There's a lot of folks that then, feel comfortable to acknowledge their boundaries. And so I think for me, just even the little things of just limiting my screen time, my responses to email, just setting those expectations. And people are okay with it, because I think people want a bit of time to themselves too. And most of the time it's nothing dire, it can wait at least 24 hours. But it is something I work on, because I do also, inside my mind, I don't want to be seen as incompetent. I want people to, know that I can, balance everything, not just kids and career, but just everything in my life. And so, but I think when more people are vocal about it, which I think more people are doing these days, you realize a lot of us are on the same page when it comes to boundaries. It's just, you need somebody to kind of take the lead and just set the precedent.
I would also want to ask you, as a founder now, right, of your own business, what did that transition look like as far as boundaries from working for a company to now having your own?
Yeah, I think working in the social sector and working at my prior organization, which was a national organization, I was really fortunate to be surrounded by others who, were about family, children and families. And so I think there was a genuine respect for those boundaries. When I did do this transition, I'd be lying if I wasn't saying that I was looking for more time to be able to kind of create more boundaries for myself with my children being so young. And then, as we all know, with the school shutting down and all, and kids in and out. But I think in working with my clients, right, because it's different now because you kind of are at the whim of your clients and their needs. And I definitely want to respect that. But again, I think just if you set the precedent, folks usually, again, and it's rare that it's really, really, really pressing, are really mindful and respectful of that. So, and I do think there's been an awakening in recent years about this. So I think folks are just understanding. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've been really fortunate that I've been in organizations where boundaries are respected, and I continue to carry that with me forward in my new capacity, in my new role. Awesome. Sierra, it looked like you wanted to jump. Oh, go ahead, Krista.
Hannah, I'm horrible with boundaries. But what I have done better is respect other people's boundaries. So I think that's the start for me. When other people are on vacation or doing, because I used to be really bad with it. I'll still text you a question. I'm like, it takes 3 minutes to answer the question. So I'm doing better at respecting other people's boundaries. I haven't created them well for myself just yet. I'm moving into that space. But I will say it really does take time, right? Because like I said earlier, understanding that the work never really stops. So in my line of work, we have foster children, we have kids that live in our residential home 24 hours a day. So anything can happen at any time. And I would really hate to disconnect in a way that I miss something really important. So, but still learning to take some time away from my phone. All my emails are on my phone. So if I have my phone in my hand, and I can see work emails just like I can see, my personal emails. So sitting the phone down for a little bit, like when I get home, just hanging out with my kids, having dinner, doing whatever I want to do, putting the phone away and going back to check it, right? So making sure that I haven't missed anything critical. I think that is one way, and really respecting other people's boundaries, even if I haven't created my own, I think is really important. And then I think Rahana mentioned something else, being a mom, that's a whole job in itself. But letting people know what's going on with you, I think is really important, because sometimes I know I've worked and people didn't know. My first child, I worked until I was about 6 months pregnant, like just couldn't hide showing anymore before I told my boss. Because I didn't want to get I didn't want any special treatment, right? I just wanted to do my job. So until I couldn't say anything any longer. But when I was pregnant with my second child, I told my board of directors when I was about 4 months pregnant, because I had some challenges with being pregnant. So I'm like, well, let me tell them early in case I need to take days off in case anything happens. And then I noticed that they really put boundaries in place for me. Let us know when you're taking leave. Unfortunately, a pandemic came and none of that happened that I planned to do for myself that time. But I think letting people know what's going on. So communicating and to your point, Rihanna, people will help you set those boundaries and give you the time that you need to support you.
That's good.
So I'll go. As it relates to boundaries and work balance, I want to start by saying I don't really believe in work balance. I like the phrase work blend. And to that point, I've done a much better job of trying to blend work and my personal life. So for example, on my work calendar, I have my children's activities too, because it reminds me like, oh, your daughter has a band performance in the morning. So make sure that you don't have an 8:30 meeting so you can be present. And so for me, that small thing is a way that I kind of control and make sure that I'm not missing out on my littles, really important opportunities to be hyper present and show them that they're a priority, right? Mommy may be a working mommy, but you're number one too. And so that's one thing that I do. And the other thing that I do is I have two phones, work and personal. And it may be mental because Krista, like you, I still check the work phone after hours on weekends. But for me, it's a mental way of saying, you know what, this is my time right now. This is my time to be present with my family. So this phone goes away, right? This other phone can stick around. Now, that doesn't stop me from looking. I'm looking at it. I'm checking emails. I'm responding to emails. But I think that it's allowed me to be more cognizant of some type of separation or a better blend, if you will, so that when I'm home, I'm present, right? And my head isn't constantly in my phone or in my laptop. So those are two things, pretty small, but that allow me to create a healthier work-life blend.
That's good. It's the small steps, right, that matter, that build to the big steps. And I think that's where sometimes having boundaries could overwhelm people. It's because they think about the outcomes versus the small steps that you can take on a day-to-day basis. Mary?
For me, boundaries can kind of be like self-care. I'm failing at it. It can just feel like one other thing I'm not doing well. I need to be, careful with that mindset as well. One thing that helps me is to focus less on boundaries between, and it's really just a mindset, and maybe it's just a mind game, but to have a mindset of what am I trying to protect and nurture? So that's where I'm putting my energy. So so instead of what am I trying to limit and what am I trying not to have crossover into something else, what am I trying to protect or grow? So time with my children, quality, and those things. And if I can focus that, then it feels less like something ongoing and something that is more actionable. The other part is I've just really shifted my mind from balance is something I'm always trying to work back to, and it's not a static place where I'm at. And then it feels less like failure. So then I can look at, okay, let's look at what's going on with work right now, what's going on with my children, what's going on with where I'm at, and where can I make some more changes this week? How can I get it better and balanced this week? How can I feel more present and more centered? And so I try to look at things at the beginning of the week. I try to look at things just how I'm feeling, sort of do a self-check. Where am I feeling guilty? Where do I need to put some energy? And just instead of looking at it as sort of a static, this is balance in my life, just allowing myself to continually revisit and just make it a goal of moving back to center and knowing that I'm kind of a pendulum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of lots of attention here, and I'm just, if I can just focus myself moving back to center, the guilt lessens, and then my attention and focus is better.
That's good. So all of you all have reached a level of success, depending on how you define success, right? What strategies did you use to reach the level that you're at now, considering the gender pay gap and male dominance in leadership? Sybil, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, I think, some of the things that I made sure I did was made sure if I was in a room or in a meeting, had something to contribute. Whether it was something small or just being insightful and taking the time to really listen. That was something that I thought that was really important for me, to be able to move up and be successful and not staying quiet. And if there's something that I didn't understand, or maybe if I even didn't agree with it, I worked to understand and ask questions. And so really another part of that was, working on relationship building, even just maybe not in the forefront of in a public setting, but then also just really working to help and ask more questions to other individuals to really help to understand them, their role, and how I can be there to support or help them accomplish their goals. And I think that was something that I felt was really important. And I remember early on in my career, I had somebody say, like, don't go to a meeting or don't participate in a group if you don't have anything to contribute. And just to be there wasn't enough. And so I think that was one thing. And I think the other piece was being transparent as much as I could be. I think is really important as far as like things I felt in a way that was constructive and solution focused. I think that was something that was important. I remember early on kind of saying like, this is wrong and this is what it is. And, my boss is like, well, don't come to me with the problems, come to me with this, proposed solutions and we can work on those. So really thinking through the solutions was something that I think helped me, move from, some of the service work to really getting in more into administration, which is really what I wanted to do. Really was around that. And I learned a lot of that from, really working with children and families in my early part of my career, just really helping them come up with their solutions and not me coming up with them for them, and really, leading a group of social workers, really being able to remind them that it's not for us to do, because we can do it all for them, but then once we leave, they're not going to have the skills to be able to do that. So, I took that and really started to kind of really hone that into how I looked at my job and my career and my path.
That's good. I wanted to dig into the piece about not being quiet in a meeting. And if you could unpack a little bit more, since this is a conversation for women and mothers, the power and not being silent when you're at the table.
Yeah. I think for me, it was really trying to assess like where do I interject? What questions do I ask? And I think from also my family also tells me this a lot, is my tone. So at home, I'm a little bit more relaxed and, not really that cognizant of what my tone sounds like. But I think in general, that was one of the things that I, learned from home, and just bringing it to the office, and not trying to get too emotional about certain things, even though if I would feel passionately about them, really trying to stay even keel, and being very measured through that process. And then, if I usually start by asking questions, because I could formulate my opinion and say something that may be off base, but because I don't have enough information to be able to do that. So I really start by asking questions. And I think the tone of how you ask those questions too, because, and not being accusatory or however I have formulated my opinion prior to doing that, really making sure that I understand before I start to, maybe contribute. So it might be a series of questions, and just to show, and even if I did, to demonstrate that I have an understanding of what's going on, and also to make sure that, if whatever it was in the meeting, like, whoever's facilitating is a few steps ahead of everybody else, right? So then it's like, what do you need to do to catch everybody up? And maybe some people might not ask the questions because they don't want to appear that they don't know or they're not knowledgeable. So being okay and asking, poignant questions to be able to help formulate an opinion, or, help resolve the issue so you can fully contribute to whatever's happening in that room, if it's possible.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I think I remember the question, Bianca. But one of the things in kind of in addition to what Sybil said about speaking up, for my journey, I decided what wasn't the right fit for me, right? So I left a job in corporate America, which is all I ever wanted. That's what I thought I wanted, right? Growing up, first generation college student, like I wanted to be a leader in corporate America. And after about 5 or 6 years, I realized that really wasn't what I wanted to do, or the dynamic, that was many years ago. So the world is a bit different now. Diversity looks different now. And the organization that I was with, that was not a priority at the time. So I was able to kind of step out on faith and follow a different career path. So happy that things went the way they did, because I learned so much. And then I realized that, a community-based nonprofit was just a much better fit for me as a person. But I got the chance to learn all those sophisticated, skills and people and all those things in the corporate America. That was a benefit to my new role. But not afraid to get your hands dirty. I think that's really been key for me in the work that I've done. I'll stay and stuff envelopes with my team, or, make flyers if I have to, like whatever it takes to get the job done. And don't get too caught up in titles. I've had so many people. I was an executive director for 7 years before I came to UCAN, and people would say, like, why are you doing that? You don't have to do that. I'm like, no, I do actually have to do this. My team needs to know that I'll do it. I'll do, except run the finance department, because I would mess that all up. Any other job at the organization, if I've had to do it, if I need to step in, if I need to show staff that I'm there to support them, I was able to do it, and I've done it. And I think that really helped me get to where I am today. At my previous organization, we needed a lot of help. Our budget was much smaller, and folks had to wear, lots of different hats to get it done. So before I was promoted to executive director, I was a director of a department, and I jumped in, right? I saw that the CEO needed support, and I would help, and I'd do many things that were way beyond my job description, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to know more. And I had no idea that things would happen the way they ended up. But so I'm, just not afraid to step outside of your comfort zone, not afraid to do what people might call the hard work sometimes, because I'm a believer, and I believe that faith without work is dead. And, so lots of faith in where I wanted to go. I had a vision for my life, but I really put the work into it as well. So, those things married together really have proven successful for me. And then also, having people in my corner, mentors and sponsors, to support me along that journey has really been successful.
Thank you. Sierra?
Showing up and being present is important. I appreciated what Krista and Sybil said about having something valuable to add. And I think our perspective as women, as for me, a woman of color in commercial real estate, which I don't often see people that look like me. My perspective is valuable. My experience is valuable. And I think it's important to lean in. I often hear people say, bring your whole self to work. And I used to cringe at that, like, I'm a lot. I don't know if they want all of me, but I recognize the older I get that all of me is important, right? And they hired all of me, and they're going to get all of me. I know that there's a time and a place to kind of slowly bring in different pieces of me, but my perspective is unique. My experience is unique. I want to make sure that I show up, that I'm informed, I'm articulate, I'm intelligent, but I'm collaborating with others, and I'm coachable, but also willing to coach others. And so I think as I think about my career, and as I think about my progression in my career in particular, those are pieces that have been very important for me and for my success. So as I think about kind of reaching up, I also think about reaching back and pulling others along the way. And as I think about my own success, Krista, I love what you said. Don't get wrapped up in the titles, right? A title is just a title. I'm thinking about the work that I'm doing and showing that I'm a collaborative team member, and I can pull up my sleeves and do whatever is needed to get the job done. I think that's how I have been successful throughout my different positions, my roles, my companies that I've worked for, but most importantly, it shows that I'm a collaborative leader. So that's been the kind of the key to my success. I know that wasn't the exact question, but just to kind of
you easing into the next question, and I want you to kick this off, Sierra, with reading your bio and seeing how you have been pioneering in the real estate industry and 40 under 40 and cranes and like all these wonderful accolades, how do you define your leadership style? And I think you started to trail into that a little bit. And how did you come to craft your leadership style? And then anyone else can jump in after that too.
I've had some incredible mentors, coaches, and sponsors throughout my career. I mean, I've been very, very blessed. And I know a lot of us can't say that in every single role, they've had an amazing leader. They have been the key to my success. I've got grit, I've got hustle, I'm gonna work hard, right? But I also understand how those external partners can help advance your success. And so when I think about myself as a leader, I think about my ability to lead in a way that is collaborative, like I just mentioned, right? It's my ideas, but the team's ideas are also very valuable. And so I want to make sure that as I'm leading a team, as I'm leading a project, I'm collaborating, right? I'm in real estate, so I think about community. And so I always say as a developer, I want to make sure that we're planning with community, not planning for community. As a leader, I want to make sure I'm leading with the team and I'm hearing from the team and I'm making informed decisions based off the team and how we prioritize things and getting real feedback. And so I can't speak enough about the importance of collaboration. I can't speak enough about being able to create space for folks to be critical and say, hey, I like that way that we're going, but I think this might be a viable option too. You have to create space for that. I've been in positions where I've had the opportunity to kind of lean in and say, hey, I got another idea. Can I run it by you? And I've had that welcome. And I want to make sure that whatever position I'm in, whatever company I'm in, I'm creating that space. And so that's really kind of how I think about my leadership style: collaborative, innovative, and one that encourages folks to pull up their sleeves and feel comfortable challenging ideas that I may have. In a respectful way, of course, but challenging them to make us stronger as a team and stronger as an organization.
It's so good. I like the fact that you create space, right? So it's not as though there's different types of leadership styles. It's not the sole woman leadership style, right? They call it the one man, but we're women. The sole woman leadership style, but more so the community minded, the communal focus. We are getting to the goal together and everyone plays a role in us getting there. Rihanna?
Yeah, I think for me too, it's really, I would say people-centered. I think I'm really about the relationships when I really think about any job I've had and just my work now. Putting people at the center, I think, is really where I think lean in. And I think, leadership, I really do believe can exist at any quote unquote level of an organization, right? Back to Krista's point of not focusing on titles. And so really just rallying around teammates or community and just really being there as a support. And to create that space for authenticity, transparency, really valuing what every person and their experience brings to the table. And I think I'm really all about failing forward. I just think that we constantly are learning. We're never going to nail it on the first time. And so how do we just pick up, and support each other along the way to do what we're aiming to do. So, I too have been really, really, really fortunate to have wonderful leaders and mentors in my life who've and my mother, who have helped really show me the way. And so, I think it really comes down to the people for me. So.
Thank you. Mary?
Agree with everything and love everything that's been shared about this. I would only add that and this is probably very, very clear and obvious, but just to remember that whatever my team and I are working on, that it's bigger than all of us, and so we're working towards something that's more important than us as a team or individuals. And when that's the focus, it's a little easier to let go of my own ego, because I have ego and I want to, I want people to think I'm smart and have good ideas. That's my frailty, but when we can make something bigger, remember that whatever we're doing is bigger than we are as a group, or that I am as an individual, then it makes the failing less important, because it's about, okay, it's not about Mary's idea didn't work. It's not about one of my team members' ideas didn't work. It's about, okay, all of us put everything we could behind this to make whatever the plan was successful. It didn't get us where we wanted to go, so let's all move somewhere else. And where I first learned that, I was really early. It was just a new manager level at a transitional living group home. This was 30 years ago. And I'd wanted to select somebody to be for a position that my supervisor didn't want. So then we took it to the team, and the director said, okay, Mary's closest to what's going on. Let's hire who Mary wants. If it doesn't work, we'll come back and make a different decision. But even he couched that as not the decision had to be perfect. It's just that this is our path. So I think that gives people room to breathe and gives people space to bring their ideas, because they don't have to be perfect or right. They can it's a safe place to bring whatever they have. And so that's really helped me when it's not about being right, but about getting it right. And like Rihanna said, failing forward, right? So it's another step. So anyway, that's a bit of a word salad, but it's my take on it.
Thank you, Mary.
Love word salad, Mary. You know what? I struggle with this question, and everybody asks it on every panel, because my leadership style changes, right, depending on the environment and what's happening at the organization. I think overall, I would say I'm a transformative leader. I'm a visionary. I'm always thinking about the future and big picture. So I think that's my overall style. But sometimes I got to be authoritative. Sometimes I can be democratic. It really depends on what are the issues at the organization at the time. And I put it on myself to be the person who changes, right? I don't think that the staff are going to change and pivot every time the issues are changing. I think that I'm responsible for being flexible, and it depends on the person that I'm managing, right? How their personality is. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to say, hey, let me use my emotional intelligence to say this person needs this type of leader. I have to be a bit more micromanaging with this person because they need to stay on task. They need this level of detail. This person, I can give them more autonomy, right? So I'm always kind of I'm doing a lot of self-reflection on who I need to be for this person to be successful at the organization. So, I don't know that I have one type of leadership style, to be very honest with you. It changes, it goes up and, it changes back and forth depending on the person that I'm leading and the state of the organization.
Thank you for your honesty. Sybil, would you like to add?
So if I understand the question again, it's about more about leadership style.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I alluded to it a little bit, and I think to some of the things that Mary had said also. I think it's dynamic, right? So I think being transparent as much as possible, and also adapting different ways of communication to the folks that you're working with, and I think understanding their communication style and how they receive information is really important, and being intuitive and sometimes asking those questions ahead of time, or even as people change too, and also in just various levels of if it's stress or whatnot. So I think kind of thinking about that and being mindful of where I am, and managing my day to day and, where my stress level is. And it's just letting folks know if it's a matter of, if I'm available, not available, or have limited availability and ability to respond. If I can't be quick on, some responses and something like, if you need me, just come get me or text me, for something that's urgent. So I think it evolves, right? So it's not static. So I think being dynamic as far as that goes. And I think the other aspect, I think as far as being effective leader is, and just with my leadership style, I think, also just making sure there's an opportunity to check in with folks, not getting too personal, but I think just making sure, like, when I ask the question, how are you doing? I really mean it, and sometimes I try to reframe the question and, just to make it more real, but I think really just taking that time and that space and, when I have regular one-on-ones with folks and just, letting them know that that door is open to share, without, like I said, like getting too personal, but just having people have a space to be able to let them know like what's going on. And so I can also be mindful because behind everything, everybody has something going on, outside of the office. So and being mindful of that. And I think and letting people know about that too.
Definitely. I think that has heightened through the pandemic because our worlds collided without our permission, right? So having those check-ins are critical to moving anything forward. And it was before the pandemic, but I think it really hit us in the face now. It's more evident. So I have this theory. Before I get into this theory, if anyone has any questions for our lovely panelists, please drop it in the Q&A. We will be getting started with Q&A shortly. So when I was in grad school, I had this theory about how people parent is how they lead, or how they would parent is how they lead, right? Like it kind of goes hand in hand. And my observations and just in conversations, I've started to notice similarities of how people lead and how they parent in conversation. And wanted to know your thoughts about that. As you lead teams, groups, companies, do you find that you parent similarly? And if not, what are your styles?
I can go on this one. I think over time, right, I think how you parent also changes based on the age of your children, right? But I think now, like where I am, I think it's a little bit more reflective of how I manage the teams that I work with. And that's really about, giving people the autonomy to make their decisions, giving them that space to be able to make mistakes, ask questions, and learn from them, and and having that space to do so. So I do that with my kids. I think one of the key things around is like school, right? So I'm like, you can be on your own with school, and I obviously have the grades like at my phone, and if I see certain things, I might ask certain questions like, hey, what's going on here? Do you need help? And really keeping that dialogue open for folks to be able to ask for help if they're starting to face some struggles. And I do that with the teams I work with as well. I give them the freedom to make their decisions as far as what they think is moves forward. I don't like to micromanage. And also having them come up with the solutions and not me being the one to, answer a lot of the questions or come up with the solutions and being collaborative in that aspect. I do that, at work, and I do it at home as well. So I think that's kind of how I would describe my style.
Thank you. I think the key point you said is based on the age and stage of your children as well.
Mm-hmm.
and this, I would agree with Sybil, and it also reminds me of something Krista shared when she talked about her leadership style, how it varies depending on the situation and that's my parenting style. I have two very, very different children. I'm the same mom, but ways that I can support and motivate and work with my younger daughter is very different than my older daughter. They're very different people. So that also I think is reflected in when I work with staff and teams, and you can have a team that has its own personality too, kind of a collective driven team, or perhaps it's not as driven of a team and needs a little bit more hand holding, if you will, a little bit more step-by-step direction. But I would, when I was a new parent, I used to say I could never be a helicopter parent because I don't want to be that far away from my children. So that's the kind of early parent I was. And as I've, gotten more secure and, just learned, I'm not a helicopter parent for different reasons. And so in my management leadership style has changed too, as I've gotten older and more secure and understand and am willing to, I think I'm willing to accept certain risks as a leader that I was not willing to accept 15, 20 years ago. And so, I need to be smart about those risks, but there are certain things that I'm willing to do. And so, but that also parallels in some parenting. Again, they're understood risks. But still there are certain things that, parenting a 13 and 17-year-old, that there are risks that I think are smart to try to, give my children the opportunities to make these decisions that 10 years ago probably would not have, even if they were this age 10 years ago. So I'm not the same person that I was. And there are certain things, certain ways, certain priorities I have for my own energy and what I want to invest in and what I'm willing to accept. So the short answer is yes.
Thank you for sharing.
I would say one thing about that is I think showing, Sierra mentioned it earlier about showing up, being present. One thing I think anybody that I've ever worked with will say I'm consistent in being there, right? I'm easy to get in contact with, which goes back into those boundaries that I don't have. If you need me, you can text me, you can call me. I'm gonna show up, right? If there's a funeral for one of your family members, if I am able, I will be there for you. I take the praises and the punches with my team, right? So if we do things well, great. If we miss the target, if we drop the ball, I'll be the first one to help take ownership with you. I'll support you to get it to the solution. I'm never gonna leave my team, out to dry, just like I wouldn't do with my kids. We'll work through it, right? It's not life or death in many cases. We're not doctors, luckily. So, we'll work through it. We've had hard times together. We'll have more hard times together, as long as we're learning and growing from those experiences. So I hope that, my team's always, and I've got really good feedback about that, just being there, being supportive, working in partnership with them. I think those are things that I see that I do at home with my children, but I also want to do with my teams. And we don't have to agree on everything, but we still are unified. We can be lockstep together, and I think that means a lot to organizations.
Thank you.
I think I've never really thought about that question, to be honest, Bianca. But the more I'm listening, the more I realize, I guess I'm the same type of leader at home as I am in the workplace, right? That collaboration is really important to me. When I think about how I raise my children, I'm raising future leaders. And I want my son, to have the agency to say, hey, I don't want to do that. And here's why. I want you to feel confident and comfortable challenging certain things, right? As a young growing man. I want my daughter to be confident, bold, and unapologetic in who she is. And I need to create a safe space at home for them to do that. Now, that doesn't mean being overly permissive, but having flexibility where my children know that home is always a safe space. And together we can talk about what feels right, what doesn't feel so right, right? Even when it comes down to bedtime, right? Recent conversation in my house. My daughter turned 10 and she's like, Mommy, can bedtime be 9 o'clock now? 8:30 feels early for a 10-year-old. And I'm like, let's see how the next week goes. We'll push it back to 8:45, and if cranky in the morning, we might need to go back to 8:30, right? So a very small example of how I think about creating a little bit of flexibility for you to do your own thing, and confidence, knowing I trust you to make the decisions and I trust you to make the adjustments as needed. When I think about my leadership at work, it's pretty similar, right? You all have the autonomy to make great decisions. I trust your expertise. I trust your experience. Let's tweak where we need to. And the same thing for my son, who's 15 years old, right? Mary, I love what you said about the stakes being a little bit higher as they get older. You're not wanting a helicopter, but you also want them to know that you are confident as a mom in the skills, the values that you've instilled in them. And so it's like, hey, go out and make those wise decisions and know that I have your back and know I'm here to kind of balance things a little bit for you as you need it. But at the end of the day, I'm here. And so I think that my leadership at work is very similar to my leadership with my clan at home.
That's really good. Sierra, what I heard was you are raising your little humans, right, to be critical thinkers. So not to stay within the confines of, okay, when you get older, you can do this, versus, no, let's develop the skill set now. And you're teaching them negotiation skills, which is so critical, right, for navigating this world. So if we have more children who had that type of nurturing and guidance and spaces where they can learn, grow, fall, get up, the system and structure in which sometimes our educational system does not have the support to infuse that critical thinking piece, you won't feel lost after high school. When you go to college now, I know how to make decisions because I was given the space to learn how to make decisions for myself and chart my own path with the help of my parents or parental figures.
That's right. And I won't pretend like I always get it right, but
right, but you have the mindset for it, and that's what matters. It's not about perfection, because they need to see that we aren't perfect, right? So when you fall, hey, I failed, or I'm very big on apologizing to my children. I want them to know that if I make a mistake, if I raise my voice be above a certain level, I didn't really intend to do that. And I want you to know that adults can apologize to you too, and should.
Right.
Krista, I heard many voices, Mary, Krista.
I was just gonna say my 8-year takes the negotiation too far sometimes. She's getting to that age at 8 that all she wants to do is negotiate everything. So I have to remember that we're teaching them some things. Yeah. And like, okay, because I didn't grow up in a house, there was no negotiation. You did what your mother said. So, I'm learning how to be a new type of mother and give freedom of choice and voice. And so that's been a bit of a challenge for me, because it's not how I was raised. But reading all the parenting books and all the things that we see, what our best practice is, I want to do what's best for my child. But yes, the negotiation. So your moms with older than 8-year-old daughters, we may need to talk about how to manage the negotiation.
And I think that goes back to boundaries too, right? It's like certain things are a requirement. This is mandatory. Mary.
Well, Bianca, when you were talking about, apologizing and that we're not perfect as parents, when my parents passed about a little over 5 years ago, but what I remember is well into their late 70s, they were still working on things to improve themselves. You know, whether it was, I mean, they were still trying to improve how they responded to each other, how they, you know, they still had goals, both kind of just emotional and spiritual goals, as well as, you know, other self-improvement. And so they never stopped. And so that's kind of been my lead is, you know, it's wherever I'm at, there's always an opportunity to move forward and get better. And that's one of the remaining lessons I was still learning as an adult, seeing my parents' age.
That's good. Continuous learning mindset. Anyone else want to hop in before we go to our questions, Q&A? Okay. So as moms, what hopes and dreams do you have for your children?
I want to raise decent humans, you know. I want kids that are thoughtful and respectful and confident and they feel supported, right? My prayer every morning is for my children to grow into healthy, wealthy, happy, wise, successful young men and women with happy, healthy families of their own someday, right? And however you get there, like I just want to support it, right? I want to encourage it. But at the end of the day, I want my kids to be happy. I want them to feel fulfilled. I want them to feel whole. I want them to know that they are absolutely enough. I want them to know that they are loved, cherished, supported, and that mom and dad have their back, right? Good, bad, and different. We'll work through it together. And so that's my wish for my children. It's never really been centered around a career or a profession for them. It's whatever fuels their passion. I hope that they find a path to go in that direction, whether it's professionally or personally. I just want happy, well-rounded kiddos.
Yes. Sybil?
Yeah, I think for my kids, I really, very similarly, I think want to make sure that they do the things that make them happy. And if it's not within the traditional mold of, you know, how everything is kind of supposed to be laid out for you, that's okay. And it's, you know, figuring out what the plan is and carving their path, I think is really important, and not being afraid to do so and to kind of pioneer and do something that they hadn't done. Because I think you see a lot of people who didn't follow the traditional route and, you know, found happiness, success. And you know, I think that's one of the things that I want to make sure, and that they have the courage to try new things. And you know, that's something I always try to encourage them. Not always successful, but you know, I think the more and more we say it as they get older, to kind of think through of being able to do that. I think that's important. And I think, you know, being okay to, you know, if there's a mistake or there's something that happens, and being able to own it and, you know, and learn from it. It's really not to be punished, but it's really about what's the learning, and, you know, how can they go about doing that differently, or, you know, change their approach maybe next time. So, and giving themselves grace, I think that's important. And that's something I've been trying to remind myself, is just really like, as they go through life, there's going to be ups and downs and challenges, and it's not going to be easy, but I think it's okay to give yourself the grace to kind of learn and be kind to yourself and others.
So good. Bianca?
Yes, so I think for my kiddos, you know, my hope is that that they really trust themselves, right? And who they are, and that they can be whoever, whatever that they, you know, they want. But I do hope that, you know, their dad and I instill compassion. I think our world can always use more compassion. And so that they are empathetic, compassionate people. And also that, you know, success, happiness, joy, that there's no like end state or goal for that. So for them to be just really present in their lives and just recognize life ebbs and flows, good and bad, you know, but I think just to kind of enjoy the ride, you know, that we're not looking, and there, you know, that there, again, there isn't some ultimate that they should feel pressure to reach, that they should really just, yeah, just enjoy all those little moments that make up all of our lives. I think that's what my hope is for them.
Awesome. Mary?
Echo everything that's been shared, and if I think I would only add connection, that they have connection to community, whatever that community definition is, and that doesn't always have to be the same community, but you know, the ability to sort of be buoyed and tethered in a positive way by connection, people and community they trust, to both act as sort of a safety net, but also a springboard to pursue everything that's been shared, and absolutely authentic, just authentic, you know, whatever that means. So that would be the only things I could add if to what else has been shared.
Thank you, Mary. Krista?
I think it's all been said, but you know, in addition to everything that all the women have said here, you know, I'm hoping I'm laying the groundwork that my children can thrive. You know, in my family, we've been surviving for so long. You know, that's a totally different aspect of life to thrive. So I hope that the work that I'm doing will kind of break that, you know, break that, those generational, I don't want to call them curses, because it's not a curse, it's the generations of cycles that we've been in, and they're able to thrive and do the things that they love. You know, they're not working just to get a paycheck, or they're not working just to take care of their family. They're working to do things that they love. So I feel like I'm having the opportunity and the experience of doing that. So I hope that, you know, they have that opportunity to do that as well. And just to stay grounded and connected to their community, and to always give back and reach back. It's something that I hope that they'll get.
So good. I look forward to meeting you all's little humans one day. I've met Krista's. And to wrap up our conversation and time together, first I want to thank you all for your authenticity, for showing up, being present, and sharing from your heart. If you could put yourself back in that time and place when you returned to work the first time after having your first child, right? That first day back to work, what advice would you give that person? And we can make this a round robin, starting with you, Rihanna, you to my right.
Oh gosh, let's see. So coming right back after having your first child, I think just taking the pressure off yourself to be everything to everyone. I think, you know, there might be a tendency that you need to overcompensate in certain areas of your life because now you have children. And I think just letting things kind of ride and just, you know, you'll figure it out. We all figure it out and what works for us. And it's not the same for everyone. So I think just appreciate your own journey and the experience that, you know, you're having and that you bring. And yeah, so I guess it would be really just taking some pressure off yourself and just being present in the moment.
That's good. Thank you. Sybil?
I would say to very similar to Rahana, it's just like, but ask for help. You know, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to be the answer for everything, and also kind of thinking through what the transition into you know, returning back to work after that, after having the baby, and you know, that first day back is, you know, figuring out what steps you need to take to be able to tap into other resources to be able to support you. So I think that's one of the things that I know for myself. I was like, oh, I got to do this, and then I had to do it all. And I think that looking back, if I, just asked for a little bit more help and just time and, and prioritize what's important, then it would have been less pressure.
So good. We are winding down on time, so I'm going to invite Tammy Retron to the virtual stage to close us out. Sierra, Rihanna, Sybil, Mary, Krista, again, a pleasure. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for being a mother. Happy Mother's Day again. I will hand it over to you, Tammy.
All right, thank you, Bianca. So my name is Tammy Retron, and I am the Managing Director of Development and External Relations at BPI, and I am a former, very proud UCAN staffer, mom of two, 32 and 6, big age range, but I still need takeaways, and these women have been very gracious in sharing that. So I want to say thank you personally on behalf of me as a mom and other moms out there for what you shared. And so there are a couple of words that came to mind, and I took notes. I got 2 pages of notes. As these women were talking, is insight, discernment, self-awareness, growth, and evolution. You all epitomize all of those things. And so just a couple of takeaways from each of you. Mary, thank you for your comments about grace and forgiveness, and that our imperfections make us perfect. That is a true statement. It makes us unique. It makes us who we are. Rihanna, 5 seconds to take a deep breath, and that time for ourselves shouldn't be another job. And then remembering and finding that inner child is critically important. Krista, thank you for your life lessons about confidence and perseverance from your daughter. Your 8-year-old sounds amazing, and determining what's the right fit for you. Sybil, taking the time to listen, and that the tone is important in your communications and style. And Sierra, every day is a chance to start over and have something of value to add, and not to leave Bianca out. Breathe. I appreciate each and every bit of wisdom that you all shared. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for raising this next generation. It makes me think of Bob Marley's "It's Gonna Be All Right," because if we have mothers like you in all of our lives, it will be all right. So on behalf of UCAN and myself and the panelists, thank you attendees for coming, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.